Happy Veterans Day, viewers. This is Sparkster1701, and today, in honor of Veterans Day, I'm going to take a look at possibly one of the greatest fictional heroes to grace the screen, Generation 1 Autobot Commander, Optimus Prime. Optimus was released in 1984 as part of the first wave of the Generation 1 Transformer toys, and he would also be available in 1985. He would be discontinued in 1986 and become a mail-away exclusive through 1987, and finally exiting the market in 1988, where he would be replaced by his Power Master version. He would also come back in 1990 as an Action Master. Of course, in 1986, when he was taken off the market, technically he would be replaced with Optimus Prime. Throughout most of the assorted media that have been done regarding the Transformers, Optimus has been most famously voiced by actor Peter Cullen. When he was offered the role for Prime, he turned to the advice of his older brother who had served in the Vietnam War as to the best way to portray the hero character he was about to portray, and has since become a legend. When Optimus was killed off in the 1986 Transformers the movie, the backlash from it was massive, and at the time, Cullen had no idea that his character was such a favorite amongst the fans. In addition to voicing Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen voiced several other Transformers, including Ironhide, Slugslinger, and Streetwise. He also voiced other characters as well, such as Tank from the GoBots line. He was also Airborne and Xandar from G.I. Joe. He also made a couple of appearances in the live-action series Knight Rider as the evil version of Kit, better known as Car. And uncredited, surprisingly enough, he did provide the vocals to the creature in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Predator. There's a lot to cover here on Optimus Prime due to the fact that it's such a big toy. There are three components, essentially, to discuss with the toy. The first being the most obvious, Optimus himself. The second is the Scout Car Roller, and the third being the Autobot Command Center, that is the trailer. So we'll start by going the more obvious route, and we'll take a look at Optimus himself. Get these two out of the way so that we can take a good look at him. This is the figure that started it all for us, folks. For articulation-wise, Optimus did have a fair amount of it going for him. He could rotate his arm at the shoulder all the way around, and he could bend his arms at the elbow all the way. He has some articulation at the hip, so you can bring the legs back somewhat. That's more for his transformation. He does also have a slight bend at the knee, so you can set him up for some running poses, with a little bit of assistance, of course. And there is a joint at the ankle, but again, that's also more for transforming him than anything else. There's a lot of criticism that's levied at his rifle. Let's not bump the camera here. Since, as you can see here, the grip is right back here. We'll get a better look at it when we get a look at the parts. We'll separate it here for a second so you can get a look. Right back here is the actual grip for the gun, along with the trigger, but yet he holds it on this post right in front of it. It's long been a gripe for fans, but people have to remember, this toy was originally released in Japan in 1983, the year prior to becoming a Transformer. And little did they know how famous this toy would become worldwide. Before looking on at more of the other components to the toy, now would be a good time to mention that also in the competing GoBots line, Tonka brought in Road Ranger, a similar robot that, as you can see, shares a partial color scheme with Optimus. That was the sliding glass door in here, folks. And as you can see, just vaguely, you can tell he's also a red-cabbed truck, similar to what Optimus would be. There's been a lot of Transformer fans that accuse Tonka of intentionally releasing this figure as a copy to Optimus Prime. In some ways that's true, but in a lot of ways it is false as well. Road Ranger was part of Bandai's Machine Robo toy line that was released in the late 1970s. So, Road Ranger came first, and the Battle Convoy that Takara released that would become Optimus Prime was released in 1983. So, in reality, if you want to look at it like that, Optimus is a copy of Road Ranger, not the reverse. Now, could Tonka have picked this particular one to be released to stand against Optimus Prime? It's entirely possible. Now, next up here, we have, oops, he let go of it on me again. We have Roller. If he'll put the nozzle back onto his hose, there we go. This is Roller, the Autobot scout car. I know that he made some appearances in the cartoon, including into the original pilot miniseries, where he was sent into a cave to check for Decepticon activity. As you can see, Roller here is just basically a small vehicle on 6 wheels. He rolls around kind of okay. A lot of it depends on how much of the extra plastic is taken off of the tires. Let's get him a little closer here so y'all can see him. Looks sort of futuristic, but in the cartoon, naturally, they closed off this section. This is also a holdover from his Diaclone line that he originally came from, since there's room in here for 4 little mini-men to ride inside it. And while they commonly show Roller here with the fuel line attached to it, he does have another option that Hasbro did not disclose on the instructions. But the hole in the back of Roller is actually big enough that you can mount Optimus's rifle into it. And now Roller becomes something of an attack car. Get him a little closer here so you can see that. And yeah, that does look kind of silly, especially with the grip here on the back of it, but I don't know, it's just silly enough that it might actually work. Now we take a look at the Autobot Command Center. Not to be confused with the similar toy mentioned for the GoBots. But check this little platform out. It isn't really much to look at, but it does hold its own against many comparable toys, and since it would be a couple of years before we would get a true playset with Metroplex, I'm excluding Omega Supreme due to the fact he really didn't have a lot of playset features to go with it. So this was basically the first playset for the Transformers, and it kinda does the job. Gives you a little place to set them up at. You got a lot of computer screen stickers along the walls here. There's even more along the wall here. And the only real downer is that there's a couple of holdovers right here and right here from the Diaclone line. that are intended for those little tiny men. There really wasn't anything like that in the Transformers line. The most noticeable feature in here is the centerpiece. This was meant to be a launcher. It's intended to launch Roller down the ramp. You just push it all the way in there. And the release tab is right here at the very back side of it. But unfortunately, due to American toy laws at the time, it just barely pops out. It still launches Roller a fair distance, but not enough to get him to clear it and drive down the ramp. There's also talk that that was originally designed for the toy that would become Mirage to be launched out. In addition, with how large this bay is, you could put at least 2 other Autobot vehicles inside as well. And kind of looks like you've got 3 guys lined up in the repair bay. Right here at the back, we have some sort of robotic unit here in the back. Whoops, the missile launcher actually does work. As you notice there, by my accidental activating, there's 2 missile launchers here. And as you just saw, they surprisingly do fire, but they don't fire at a full force, so only goes maybe about 6 inches away from the toy. But you also got up here a rotating radar dish. You can rotate all the way, and it's on an articulated arm, so it can be folded at different angles. And you have a claw arm here. It's articulated at the back, so it can be swung around. It also has one at its elbow. And you can even open up the claw. Unfortunately, you're not given any real tools to go with it, so it kind of doesn't do much. And again, the orange canopy on this does open up, and there'd be a seat in here for another one of the Diaclone men. As an added bonus, this thing does have a hinge that does allow it to a couple of hinges so it can be positioned in multiple angles, and with some gentle movement, the whole pod can be rotated all the way around. There just went another missile. And there you have it, folks. That's the Combat Deck Command Center. Okay, moving right along now. Let's get ready to transform these two into possibly their most recognized form. We'll start getting Optimus out of the way, and we'll start with the trailer. We start first off by popping the missiles out so they don't get in the way or shoot the camera. Basically take the radar dish and you want to fold it flat so it's laying against the launcher. Rotate the claw and fold it up at the elbow all the way and line it up onto the underside of the launching pod. And then next, you're going to pivot it so it points straight up. Yeah, it can do that too, folks. And lay it as flat as possible down against the bed of the truck. Adjust the claw arm a little bit so that this thing goes totally level and flat. Then you're going to take the sides and just fold them up and lock them together. Just like that. And next, we bring the ramp up, close everything up. And then these stabilizing legs, you just grab onto them and fold them in. They got holes on the top of them. They'll connect to the posts underneath. And there's the trailer. Get that out of our way for the moment. And bring back Prime. Of course, for Prime, you're going to remove any accessories. In this case, his fists. If he was holding his gun, we'd need to get rid of that too. Then we take the head, you rotate it backwards all the way till it lays flat. And then next, we'll take his arms at the shoulder. You want to make sure that the arms are bent in this 90-degree angle like that, like so. Take the shoulders and fold them to the back. And then just push them in flush against the surface. And next, we take his arms and bring them in to the sides and just snugly secure them in. And then down on his legs, you fold his feet down flat, and then you're going to move them at the hip all the way to the back. Get them all the way back and flush. Then you can set it down, and the post on the back of his legs will connect loosely to the hole in the trailer. And there you have it. The most famously recognized alternate mode for Optimus Prime, a Freightliner cab-over-engine truck. It's based on a design from the 1970s, and is pretty much Optimus's most iconic look in the line. And thanks to the rubber tires, he does roll against a flat surface here pretty good. And since he's attached loosely, you can simulate turning Optimus and the trailer very well. It's very smooth, folks. As you can see, Optimus Prime does come with a fair number of loose parts. I'm going to start with the largest, Roller, the Scout Car. This is Roller entirely without any accessories. And something that you'll also have to check is to make sure that Roller has all 6 of his wheels. There have been some loose samples that have turned up where the wheels are broken off. It's probably due to people thinking they can just simply pull the wheel off and give it that Roller has been damaged in battle and lost a tire. Unfortunately, due to the lack of a lot of plastic underneath him, especially where the wheels are all located, this tends to weaken and break the toy, so keep an eye out for that, folks, if you want one that is in good condition. This is the hose that basically connects the fuel pieces together. It's just a simple piece of rubber, so nothing really exciting about it, but as you can imagine, since it is rubber, after 30 years or so, it will start to get brittle and break. Probably the best thing about this is with what exactly it is, shouldn't be too hard to replace it. As shown earlier, this is Optimus's gun. It's Butterfingers. In the media, it's known as an ionic blaster. And supposedly, depending on what part of the lore you believe, it can be as powerful as Megatron's fusion cannon. Here's a look at it from the other side. Again, there's really not much to see with it that you didn't see earlier, folks. We also have 2 fists, a right fist and a left fist. They're in a dark bluish color. And of course, there's a hole on the top, so you can make Optimus right-handed or left-handed, however you wish to do it. And what we have here is the gas nozzle, mainly a holdover from the Diaclone line, But you can pretend that Roller is carrying Energon around and can refuel your Autobots. It'd be nice if some of the small figures could actually hold this thing, but, well, you know how that goes. But we also have what's referred to as the gas pump. This is the actual unit that plugs into Roller. Not really much to see with it, folks. It's got a hole on the one end, the other end is Butterfingers. Totally solid. Last but not least, Optimus comes with 4 of these rockets. So you always have a couple of extra shots around if you need them. But next we're going to show you variants to a lot of these parts. As you'll notice here on the camera, we've taken away just the hose and the gas nozzle. Those are the only parts out of all of them that have not had a variant form in any other release of Optimus Prime. Optimus himself, while I don't have any of the variants that are available, there is a couple to point out. One is that there's a rumor that there is a version with longer smokestacks, but I unfortunately have not found any evidence to prove that, so kind of keep that in mind if you happen to see one. But what's more interesting is a European version that has some darker blue plastic that's almost black in color for his legs. It does not have these stickers here. What makes it more noticeable is that the feet down here on that version are done in red. So keep that in mind if you happen to find one of them. The trailer does have a slight difference to it than what most would think. Now, the Transformer toy guide written by Mark Bellomo indicates that there is a version that has raised computer panels instead of these stickers, and while that may be true, I have never seen one to confirm it, and with something else that I have to show you viewers, I don't think that's an actual version. But the one thing to take into consideration is the material on this floor for the central piece. There are early versions of it that are still made of metal due to the fact that the Diaclone figures from the original toy had magnetic feet, so you could stand the little guys on this section right here. This sounds somewhat metallic, so this is likely one of the earlier editions of the toy. Lucky me. Now, as for a lot of the others, most of the parts have what is known as a bloated version, which pretty much means it is larger than the original. We're going to scoot everything out of the way here so you guys can have a clear look at what I'm talking about here. We're going to start off with the gun. This is the regular version of the gun. And this is the bloated version of the gun. Especially when you look at the barrels of the gun here, the bloated version is considerably wider and bigger. Put those down here and zoom in so you can get a good look at them. Very nice, very interesting. There just went one onto the floor. Here are the regular versions of the fists. Get the camera to angle right. Zip. And then there are bloated versions of the fists that are somewhat bigger and real noticeably wider than the others. And then lastly, there is the gas pump. This is the normal version of the gas pump. You know, it would help if I put it in front of the camera. Alright, this is the normal version of the gas pump. And this is the bloated version of the pump. And bring it up here to the camera so you can actually see the bloated pump. And we'll bring the other one up. And give you guys a chance to kind of look them over and compare them. As you can see, the bloated one on the top is just a little bit wider. Kind of overlay them together. Put them facing the same direction here, and you can see the one right here on the top. That's the regular one. So you can see it does kind of look a little bit bigger. One other thing to notice is color differences on some of the parts. As you saw earlier, Optimus comes with 4 of these black missiles, but the missiles are also available in silver. And as you can also notice, there's a slight difference to the mold on the missiles. There's an extra layer of ring plastic here on the silver ones that is not present on the black ones. So, something to keep in mind, especially if somebody may be trying to be fraudulent with you on that. Back up a moment here. And the color schemes also apply to Roller. The most common color of Roller is this light blue color here. Roller is also available in dark blue, the same dark blue that Optimus's legs are in. But, even more rare, Roller also comes in silver. So, something to keep in mind, folks. Customize your Optimus Prime to be as common or as rare as you'd like him to be. Now, before we take a look at the paperwork, I want to take this time to point out a little bit about the history for the death of Optimus as depicted in the 1986 animated feature. When the studios were in the process of working on the various Hasbro features, permission had been given early on for them to kill off Duke from the G.I. Joe toys. And somewhere along the pipeline, it was decided that since the Transformer movie was going to be released prior, that Optimus should also be killed amongst the other Autobots. However, after Hasbro started to get the backlash onto them for the mass murdering of several of the Transformers, Optimus included, and especially, it forced them to go back into the screenplay and vocal works done for G.I. Joe's movie and change the script a bit so that Scarlet would instead mention that Duke has fallen into a coma. Never mind the fact that Serpentor had just thrown a sharp snake into the area where Duke's heart would be. If you haven't seen it, folks, trust me, it just gets weirder. Enough vocal work was added at the end of the film to confirm that Duke had recovered from his coma, so he would live to fight Cobra once again. However, many fans have often felt that if the G.I. Joe movie had been released first, Optimus would have gotten spared instead. Instead, in their haste, Hasbro had Sunbow write in a story where Optimus was found to be alive inside an Autobot mausoleum and ended up sacrificing himself to help save the other Autobots, thus giving him something of a more noble and heroic death, unlike the gruesome execution that he went through in the movie. However, this would still not prove favorable amongst the fans, and he would be brought back to life permanently at the end of the third season. Unfortunately, the cartoon series would be canceled after that, so his resurrection was kind of moot. But in some ways, you could say that Optimus gets the last laugh over Duke, as with the current live-action movies, G.I. Joe's movie was originally to be released first. But as the tagline for that was, the subline for the G.I. Joe toy line they were going with was a real American hero, and at the time, the American military was not very popular on overseas territories. So instead, while they tried to come up with a new way to tell the storyline, the Transformers movie was released first, and whether you like it or not, it is a billion-dollar movie-making franchise, whereas the G.I. Joe line is prepping for a potential reboot. So I think Optimus scores one over Duke. Now we'll take a look at Optimus's instructions. And this was the style they were doing in 1984. They were in full color. You take a look here. This picture here for all the parts is depicting the odd variant parts. So it has the bloated pump and fists and rifle. And it has the silver missiles and the silver version of roller. But most noticeably, it does not have the sticker sheet like many of the others do. Probably because it would look a little cramped here on this picture. But you'll get to see something about that in a moment. Scroll a little along here and you can see how to transform the truck into Optimus Prime. And then when we go to the back side, how to turn the trailer into the combat deck command center. And it does point out here at the bottom that the stand here, if it's kept in the vertical position, it can poke through the roof of the trailer. And you can see roller here. It shows here how to launch roller, but again, as you saw on mine, it really doesn't do very good. And then we go over here to how to put on all the stickers. You can see he had quite a few. Then we get to the last page where we have the talk of the robot points and how to read your tech specs. But before we go to the tech specs for Optimus Prime, I have a real treat for you, my viewers. I happen to have recently acquired off of eBay the original instructions for the Battle Convoy, the predecessor to Optimus Prime, and take a look at this spread here, folks. You can see many of the other later Transformers. I mean, we got Prowl, Smokescreen, and Hound, and Jazz are all on here. You can see that the side of the trailer for Optimus had Diaclone on it. Scroll down here and you can get a good look at the Car Robot series. See some of the Transformers in their early stages of development. I mean, right here you've got Jazz, and the thing you can notice is while the robot mode here appears to be white, the car is gray in color. Then you got Sideswipe, you got Mirage, but you also got an early working form of Wheeljack. And we show you down here at the bottom, you can see a fair amount more of them, like a red version of Sunstreaker and a black version of Ironhide. And of course, next to him, this is a police version of Sunstreaker. And we got Ratchet, and you got Trailbreaker, a red version of Skids, you got Blue Streak, a red version of Hoist, a black version of Skids, Inferno, Smokescreen, Hound, and Prowl. So, rather interesting to take a look at this, folks. And then we turn it around to the back side, and you get to see the instructions. Right here, this gives you a little bit better view of the side of the trailer, where it instead says Diaclone, and right there in small letters it says Battle Convoy. And you look up here and it shows some of the sticker placement and how to transform him. And right here it even shows how you put the little men inside the truck. And you get down here, right here we got a parts listing. Over here, how to assemble roller, and showing that you can either mount the gun or the gas pump. And right here's the instructions for working the trailer, including launching roller. As you can see there, roller has the gun instead of the gas pump. Over here we got arming the missile launcher. It kind of shows you a sideways view down here inside. Opening up the full combat deck. And a few other options that you have with it, like you can stand it vertically and have Optimus lay in it to be repaired. There's a side view where you can kind of look like you got something going on in there. There shows that the piece can stick out of the roof of the trailer, so that would give you another combat option. Optimus can be rolling around and blast those Decepticons with missiles from there. And back here you've got it fully wide and open and with 3 guys inside. So, nice bonus for you there, folks. It's not something you see every day, certainly not on a lot of the other Optimus Prime reviews, so that's a real treat for you. Now we'll move on to his tech spec. We got was possibly one of the most iconic pictures of Optimus Prime. This has been on the front of the box. It's all done in red to indicate he's an Autobot, and even says Autobot. It gives his name as Optimus Prime, and his function is Commander, not Leader. Only the Power Master version of Optimus Prime would list his function as Leader. All the others list him as Commander. It also gives his motto as, "Freedom is the right of all sentient beings." A little bit of trivia here for you folks. When the first live-action movie was released, there was a poll on the internet to get a quotation to be put into the film for Optimus Prime to say. And the #1 voted quotation was this motto right here. Surprisingly, not Autobots transform and roll out. They wanted him to say, "Freedom is the right of all sentient beings." The interesting thing about that was, the line was already in the movie. Optimus Prime is the largest, strongest, and wisest of all Autobots. Feels his role is the protection of all life, including Earth life. Fights unceasingly to defeat the Decepticons. Splits into 3 autonomous modules. 1. Optimus Prime, the brain center known as the Commander. 2. Roller, the Autobot scout car, a spy who operates up to 1,200 miles away. And 3. Autobot headquarters, the combat deck equipped with a versatile mechanic/artillery robot. Injury to one module is felt by the other 2. It's interesting that while Optimus has a lot of lore done for him and about him, this tech spec almost tells you next to nothing. Moving right along here, we have all of his stats. It gives his strength at 10, his intelligence is 10, his speed is 8, his endurance and rank are both 10, as is his courage. His firepower is 8, and his skill is 10, so it does back up that Optimus is indeed a very powerful robot. Now we get down to, what do I think of him? Do you really need to ask? I mean, come on, this is Optimus Prime here. Optimus Prime has been a hero to a lot of youngsters and still remains a hero to many of us older generation Transformer fans, and due to his depictions in the new animated features and the live-action movies, his hero status just continues to grow, and it all started with this toy and his original depiction in the 1980s Transformers cartoon. The toy itself is about average, but it gets more bonus points just because it is Optimus, and you do get a lot of play features with it. The robot features more articulation